to celebrate Tina and their gifts and contributions to us as a community, and to just hear about what's next in their lives. So we're, if you will, just going to have a little bit of a sacred conversation with Walter and with Tina today as well. And so I'm going to start us off by just asking a question of Walter and Tina, looking at, as we kind of look ahead. Guys, it's you've got something really exciting ahead of you. And I wonder if you would share with us what you're looking forward to, technically what you'll be doing, professionally and in ministry, but also what you're looking forward to in Vermont. Tell us a little bit about what lies ahead and what excites you about it.
Thank you, Drew. I'll just go first, and if Tina wants to
I want to say something too.
Exactly.
So I'm going to be the Canon to the Ordinary for cultural transformation for the Bishop of Vermont, who at least I know one family knows her quite well. The Bishop of Vermont is Shannon McVeigh Brown, the daughter of Ron and Jackie Spann. And so just a brief, Canon to the Ordinary is generally those terms or canons to a bishop are the people either lay or ordained. Often they are ordained, but it does not have to be an ordained person who works for the bishop in the bishop's office, and in a lot of different ways. And I actually am sort of carrying a few different hats. There are actually in the office, two of us are full-time canons to the ordinary with different roles. And she's also looking at hopefully adding another person who will be part-time along with some other duties that she has, a third priest. But as canon to the ordinary for cultural transformation, I have a program side, which I'm most excited about, and I'll just talk about that in a second, but also working alongside the bishop on some administrative things as far as the bishop's office is run, as well as what she calls the diocesan leadership team. And but also what I'm particularly excited about, when she first approached me last year about this, was in the program area of what she called cultural transformation is a very, I think, a 21st century word in an unchurched place like New England, where I think between New England and the Pacific Northwest are the least number of church members and church-going people in the United States. So, when she described what it was, I said, well, this really is about mission. And we agreed, but that's a word that either people won't know what it means, or if they hear it, they may have a negative reaction to it. It's really around, for me, what she wants me to focus on programmatically are three areas. Stewardship in the 44 congregations that are there in Vermont and some other ministries, helping congregations in this area of stewardship, but not simply fundraising about how they may use their buildings or property, how they may engage themselves as members. It's a small diocese and there are many small parishes. But in addition to stewardship, the second area is something, of course, that's very Vermont, is care of creation. So the ministry of sort of environmental sustainability and environmental justice. One of the exciting ministries that's already going on in Vermont is Mission Farm, and I've been tasked to work with them. Mission Farm is run by two women Episcopal priests. One of them, each of them has another ministry in part that they're doing for the diocese or for a parish, but also one of them is she and her husband are compost farmers, and they actually apparently have the largest compost service business in the state. And the property next to theirs is now Mission Farm, which is organic, growing and this idea of care of the earth and creation and moving in that way. The diocese is committing themselves to, I believe it's 2035, maybe sooner, of going completely off fossil fuels is their goal. So that's, and then not surprisingly, the third big programmatic area is on the issue of racial reconciliation. And we kind of joke, I've only been to Vermont once, and that was for Shannon's consecration with several of you. And I have some dear friends, a clergy couple, both are priests, and they're semi-retired living in Vermont, and they sort of laugh at themselves that Vermont is considered perhaps either Vermont or Maine, the whitest diocese in the Episcopal Church. I mean, the least, fewest number of people of color, and yet elected an African-American woman as bishop. And then her two canons she appointed is one, myself, an African-American male, and the other is a woman who is Abenaki, or Abenaki, which is the indigenous people of Vermont. So it's a very different diocese and a different symbol and image that Bishop Shannon has already started to do. But on the issues of racial reconciliation, although there is some interesting history of a small number of African Americans have been in Vermont for years. The first elected sheriff anywhere in the United States who was African American was in Vermont, plus some other interesting things. But of course, deep issues around justice with the Abenaki Act still going on today. And they've only been recently, in the last 20, 25 years, been federally recognized. So that's a bit about, the ministries that I'm going to be doing, as well as, helping the bishop, with the lay staff in the office, things like diocesan convention. And I will be, one of the things I'll be continually doing is working with actually one of my old friends, Titus Pressler, in helping in the formation of clergy as well as lay people, programs in schools that need to get up and running. In a small diocese, parishes often really need the resources of the diocese to help them do programs that a place like Christ Church can do and stand alone if they wanted to. So I'm actually quite excited about doing that as well. So I don't want to keep going, but that's what I'm, that'll be what the work in ministry will be like when we get there in about 8 days, 8 or 9 days, I think is the countdown.
Just a little caveat to Walter's duties, the whole creation care, what we've learned in this setting up for the move in our rental house, that there's no trash collection done by the municipality of Vermont or Burlington, or most municipalities in Vermont don't have trash collection, we've discovered, but it's a state law that you have to compost and
recycle.
And recycle. So, this farm that Walter's talking about, evidently people have to hire people to haul away their compost if they're not going to do it themselves in their yards. So it's been interesting to also try to find a contractor who can collect our trash every week, etc. But going back to, Walter just showed me his phone at the beginning of this conversation, that Drew had sent some questions for us to think about. And one of them was about the relationship with Christ Church. And I think I've shared this with some of you before, but I want to say it again, that I can't thank you all enough for the warm, warm welcome that you gave us when we first arrived, and the generosity of all of you that's continued over the years. You embraced us so readily, even before we got here. And I don't know if many of you know that when we got here, the house was already furnished by Joseph and Drew and Jessica and Diane, making purchases for our basic needs in the kitchen and furniture, because we didn't have anything with us. We came straight from the furnished housing we had in Neshota in Wisconsin, and the rest of our stuff was in storage in Sewanee. And I was so touched by every little detail that they thought of, from flowers in the living room, live floral arrangement. And now, as we're getting ready to leave, I think it's too difficult to try to show you, but there's two beautiful floral arrangements that you'll see them on Sunday. Mary brought them, and she was so considerate to ask Walter what his favorite flowers were that had sentimental value. And there's Protea from South Africa in it. I don't know how Mary got that. And there's orchids to represent our time in Hawaii. And then some bicolor roses, which were the type of rose that Walter gave me on our first date, 40 years ago. So every time I look at these as we're packing up, it just reminds me of how thoughtful, how generous all of you have been from the time we arrived to the time we're leaving, and all the many kindnesses you've shown us, over the years. I know I haven't been as actively involved as I had hoped, and many of you have heard my long, sad story about how teaching has taken up so much time, but I started teaching 40-some years ago, and I can honestly say the past year and a half since COVID has been the most challenging time of my career. And we went back and forth from being in person to totally being distant learning. And initially last spring, we were only Zooming maybe once a day, but I was sending out lesson plans daily for 15 different subjects and then collecting papers from 20 different students. And that was challenging. Then we went back in person at the beginning of this school year, and that had an equal amount of challenges, just of a different sort. But when we went back to virtual, we were asked to be on Zoom, on the camera with our students from 8 in the morning till 3:30, with the camera on them, even when they were doing independent work, so that we could kind of provide childcare and monitor to make sure they were doing their work. They did get to take a break at lunch, but that meant that I was teaching all day. And then when I got finished at the end of the day, I was doing the lesson plans and correcting papers and doing a lot of that digitally. So I was totally consumed with teaching. And I actually am still getting together student portfolios to turn into my principal tomorrow. So I lived, breathed, and slept school. And that's why I also wasn't able to participate in Zooms on the weekend. Sometimes I was still doing lesson plans on Sunday mornings in between listening to, services. But so I know you haven't seen me, but I've been very aware of your presence in our lives, because I can sometimes overhear the morning prayer and the evening prayer when Walter's praying with you. And I hear little stories from Walter about how people are doing, and who's in the hospital and who's out of the hospital and doing well. And I guess that goes to Drew's other question about what our hope is for Christ Church. And I have been so delighted to see all the different ministries that all of you have been involved in. Maybe some of them have grown over the time we've been here. The partnership with the Jefferson Chalmers community, all the forums that you've been doing. My wish for you is that you can continue on this trajectory that seems to me to just point in the direction that God calls us to be and do, and how to move through our daily lives as examples of what Christ calls us to be in terms of our relationships with each other within the parish, but also the larger community. And I just, I know, I don't just wish it for you. I know that from all indications, all the evidence that Christ Church is progressing in this direction towards everything that the gospel calls us to do and be. So, so we'll be cheering you on from afar, and you'll have, I know, Walter's contact details, and you can get mine too, to stay in touch. And to back up to what you were saying, Drew, about Zoom, I have to say that the alternative of not being able to see one another at all, even if it's just virtual, to me, it makes a world of difference. And I'm, as much as I had to be on Zoom all the time with work, I still am so grateful for this technology, because it's how we were able to celebrate Christmas and Thanksgiving with our sons. You know, if it wasn't for Zoom, we wouldn't be able to see them at all. So rather than, you know, get dismayed about Zoom, I actually was quite delighted to hear that you all were doing this Zoom party tonight. And I'm just so grateful to be able to see you, even if I can't give you a real hug, and to, you know, just make that connection verbally too.
I appreciate that. You know, one of the things we've tried all year is to figure out how best to be church in this time. And Zoom has been one of the real gifts that have made that possible. You know, everyone, you probably have all heard me say it. One of my favorite parts of each day, whether it's a weekday after morning or evening prayer, or Sunday morning after the broadcast of the service, is that gallery view of Zoom where I get to just see everyone's face. And to your point, Tina, this ability to just be with you and with Walter and to see you is a real gift. So I hope, I'm grateful for this time as well. You know, friends, I'm realizing that I'm gonna struggle to get all of us. There's no way I can get us all into this this evening. So I'm gonna encourage you, if you've got just a brief word of thanks that you want to offer. Hit the hand, raise your hand. There's a little button in the bottom typically of your screen for reactions, where you can raise your hand. And a couple of times in the evening, I'm going to just call on somebody, and it might be you. So if you've got a little thank you want to shout out, let me know, and then I can know that I'm going to try to get to some of us tonight. There's another little treat for us all, but particularly for Walter on that note as well. Tina, you stole a little of our thunder. You jumped ahead to questions 3 and 4, but it's all good. It's all good. I'm going to take us back to a little earlier. But first, are just a question for you, Tina. Are you going to be teaching, do you think? Are you going to be what's a little bit of that kind of that side of your life going to be?
Well, you know, as I tell people, teaching is such a portable profession. So I've been fortunate that every time Walter makes a big career move or has to move for another ministry, it's really been quite easy for me to pick up with teaching. So I think when we first get there, I'll probably do, you know, long-term substituting like I did when I first got here. Luckily, my certification is reciprocal with Vermont, so I think I'll be able to get into a school system pretty easily. The lovely thing, because I had missed being with younger children, I had intentionally applied to an elementary school for this stint while we were here in Michigan, but I've taught everything from kindergarten through college level. And there's a lot of colleges in Vermont, but I also was pleased to learn, even though Vermont is the second whitest state in the country, evidently Burlington is a sanctuary city. And there's tons and tons of refugee families there. And one of my certifications is in ESL, for English to speakers of other languages. So when I was looking for trash collection contractors, they directed me to the city website. And I went to the city of Burlington's website. They had 7 different languages across the banner at the top of the website, written in the dialect of that language. And it ranged from everything from Sudanese to Bosnian to the Burma, what's the Karen, some languages that aren't, that I haven't really been exposed to, but that are indicative of the different immigrant and refugee populations that are there. So I'm hoping to get a position maybe in the fall with the Burlington Public Schools doing ESL, or they call it EL now, English for Language Learners. And I think that Shannon's daughter, who went to the high school, told me that they have a huge English for learners from other languages department at the high school. So I may switch ages and go back into ESL. But thank you for asking, Drew.
Yeah. Well, I know that's been such a... Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, I'm getting up there close to retirement age, but I've got a couple more years before I can retire.
I'm told retirement can be a great gift. Some people have said that, but no, I know how much teaching has been, how valuable it has been to you, and how passionate you are about it. So I'm excited that you see that weaving into your life in Vermont as well. Walter, I was thinking about our time together, and I wonder, in your experience amongst us here at Christ Church, what are you taking away from our time? What have you learned, or what's provoked you kind of that you're going to hold on to from our life?
Yeah, thank you. Great question. Well, and I'm sorry, so you don't see, but if I am looking off, you may have just heard. So Misty, our dog, is over here to my side at the feet, and I have to occasionally slip a treat to her to keep her
It's dinner time.
pacified, because she's having to forestall dinner, and I don't think Misty really cares for Zoom. But anyway, I will take away first. I've learned so much from you, Drew, as well as the other staff like Scott and Joseph, but also the people. I would say one thing first of all is how a larger, complex organization, what's required to make it, I think, run as efficiently as it can. That requires not only leadership, but also learning things that may seem that I was slow to learn, but team building and, clergy are often trained in sort of solo activity, and the ability to, in an organization, work cooperatively together when a lot of moving parts. I've also, and I said this to you, Drew, but I want to share with the rest of the folks that, I've worked with some great priests, but one of the great joys in working with you is how, in many ways, even though we went to different seminaries, we have this almost sympathetic, not identical, but very relatable, complementary way of being a priest, of the daily office and prayer, of, I think, what we think the church needs to always keep in the front of its mind, if she being the church, is to be faithful to the gospel. I also take away to me, the number of people who have shown themselves to be eager. I don't want to name names because I'm afraid I may forget someone, but the people who have just come forward, and I've gotten cards and emails. Today I got a beautiful email from a parishioner who did some artwork that just touched me, and it's their eagerness to the books we've read, the things we've studied, their willingness to engage this year, the sacred conversations, which really drew, I had one idea, but Drew really narrowed it to a focus about how to reach as broad as possible group in the parish. So I have learned so much about it, and I think in working with congregations, a different setting and context, but to think about how these things can be translated to their context is really important, and I appreciate that so much.
That's I'm grateful for that, Walter. Not grateful for the and share the personal affection and appreciation of our ecclesiology, if you will, talk kind of churchy language, but our understanding of the priesthood, and but I even more grateful to hear, because I hope that we have in some way been a gift to you as much as you have been a gift to us. And I'm going to say more about that. I'm going to reserve my thanks for a little later. But you and Tina have been a really profound gift to Christ Church, and I do hope in some way that we have nourished and you in return. And so I'm grateful to hear that, and I hope others hear that for us. There's another side, as we make our leave of one another. There's our gratitude, but there's also our hope for one another. And we know that when we depart, in this case, as you folks depart for Vermont, there will be things that won't have been accomplished. And as you look back to Christ Church figuratively, I wonder what is it you hope that you've given to Christ Church? What is the gift that you hope we've uncovered or will uncover? And then a little further out, what is that hope that you hope we find our way into? What do you hope for Christ Church?
And yes, and I do have a hope for what Christ Church. I think you're in the process. And one of the things, and I would just say that whatever gifts I've given you all, thank you for what you've shared. But I really think I've gained even more. I said something to Scott. Said something to me. Scott Annoyance said something the other day. That one of the things preachers, I think, need to remember now after Amanda Gorman's poem at the inauguration a few weeks ago, that
the bar high.
We are not, to say that we are broken may be true, but it's actually more accurate to say we are unfinished.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that you're really trying to discern is, where, is that point, God is not finished with any of us yet. I think that, a few months before COVID, what I could see was this congregation's, as your theme is to excel, excellence that you've had in worship, that I'd like to think that we've done, well in formation and growing, obviously other areas that we wanted to grow into. But what I was particularly excited about and hope that post-pandemic it can resume and with even more gusto is the outreach and engagement that in the Jefferson Chalmers area. I think about the day that we worked together, so many on the house in Jefferson Chalmers. Now even though she's passed away, Christine Matthews and her family in that house. But also, and I would just say that, and then of course with SOAR, working with Karsten's Elementary, and now during the pandemic with SOAR with other students around the area. I just think that that is so critical to be Jesus's hands and heart and feet in the world. I would, this may seem really, there's a phrase, the big, hairy, audacious goal, but I would almost like, would hope that between Christ Church and the diocese or other parishes in the diocese that are on the east side, to see that a ministry, similar to what's happened at Church of the Messiah with Pastor Barry, that even that building that still sits now empty, St. Columbus, may become some type of center of hope and rule in that community. I just think it is part of its proximity to Christ Church. Something I remember when we visited, Drew, the first time, you drove us around Detroit and Grosse Pointe. You took us around there, and I almost had forgotten about it there. But and then I've learned over, I knew some people early in my time here had a connection there, but then I've discovered only recently other people who grew up there at St. Columbus. So I hope that maybe part of my hope for you is that you fully engage more in the community, that perhaps down the road, it may take years, obviously, that will be part of your ministry and outreach.
What about well, first, thank you for that. You and I have talked about this in various ways, and we've kind of more broadly spoken about it, is how well, let me say it this way. Christ Church, in my experience, has long had a vision of being engaged constructively as a blessing, or participating in the revitalization and uplift of Detroit, broadly stated. And I think that discussion and that focus in on Jefferson Chalmers has been really helpful for us, and also challenging for us. So I look forward to our continued focus and in the Jefferson Chalmers neighborhood, and thinking about how we can be a particular partner to all of the transformation that's possible there. What about I said it before. I'll say it again. I'm going to share some of my gratitudes in a little bit, but Walter, you have brought a great deal of both vision and dare I say even challenge to our life, and as kind of what I do with our sacred conversation guests, what's that thing that you've brought that you hope we see most clearly, whether it's in your teaching or in your vision? What is it you want for us to see more clearly than we may see sometimes?
So I would say, Drew, that it's this twofold thing that I think is so vital. To me, I'm not using a virtual background here in this room. It's lovely enough as compared to my office. But I've been using for a while an Ethiopian icon for that background, the baptism of Jesus. And I always go to that as my theological touchstone, that at the baptism of Jesus, every gospel text talks about the voice of God saying, "This is my son, my beloved, in whom I am well pleased." And for me, there's a two-part thing about us in our what we share is our baptism, is that you understand, we recognize, yes, that Christ is God's voice, but the voice of God also breaks through and broke through each of our baptisms. I always love to preach about that, and that we have to, everyone at Christ Church, know that they are beloved of God. And then the challenge is to know that there are so many people who both, sometimes it's both and, or either or, but who do not see themselves beloved of God. Or even sadly, the world does not treat them as beloved of God.
Mm.
And so to me, like for each one to understand that this two-part thing, that you are beloved of God, but everyone else is as well. And that's how we need to treat each other. Our, divided nation. Also, the other things that are happening in the world are a reflection of that sad and tragic reality. Even the pandemic exposes this reality, as well as the other issues over the past year, that some people are not treated. I actually, sadly, I think some people would disagree with me. They would say, no, Walter, everybody's not beloved of God. And other people might want to say they agree with it, but maybe it's hard for them to act that way. So for me, it's really always this hope that people grow into that two-part understanding about themselves and about others. And if we understood that more, we would obviously go more towards what Martin Luther King called for. What Martin Luther King was working towards was the hope of a beloved community. So that's, if you will, my hope, my dream. It's the root of my ministry, because I think it's rooted in that the words that came out of Jesus' own baptism, and by extension, our baptism, of this sense of beloved of God.
That ability to proclaim the belovedness of all, but also to effect it, to live it, is that, I think, that critical nexus point for us as a church is, how do we make this truth known, and how do we live it with one another, and particularly with those who are unaware of that truth, either because it's something internalized that they've heard through the years, or something the world has in a sense proclaimed to them, and how do we be a counter voice? And that's one of the many in our conversations, Walter, in your sermons through the years. It's one of those themes that I think you have highlighted for us with regularity and with clarity, and I really thank you for that. I'm going to pause us for a moment. I hope everybody else knows about this, but or has a sense of this, and maybe Walter, I hope this is a bit of surprise for you. But maybe it's not, but one of the things that it is a beautiful thing at a day like on an evening like this, is that chance for all of us to come up and say thank you to you directly. I'm going to get that chance in a couple of minutes, and I saw Butch and Lisa in the chat have shared some of those affections and gratitudes. But we put a little something together that I hope captures just a little bit of our love and our appreciation for you, and for the tangible ministry you had with us. So Joseph is sharing a screen. I see it. I hope you're seeing it. And I hope everybody's seeing it right now. But Joseph, would you play that for us?
Wow. Thank you. Wow.
I think we need some Kleenex. That was beautiful.
That was beautiful. Thank you, Joseph.
Yes, and the music. Thank you. I hope, can we get a copy of it?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Thank you.
We knew there, again, one of those great moments is, or times of parts of this time is that chance for you and others to have a word of thanks and embrace. And we obviously in this COVID world, we can't do that. But we wanted to make it clear and tangible to you how much of a gift you have been to us as a community, and how grateful we are for your love, for your wisdom, your I can go on and on, but ultimately how grateful we are for the two of you. Um, I think it was Mark Loringer in there who said, "Thank you, Walter, for being you." And that is a ditto for the two of you. Thank you for being you, and bringing yourselves to our lives. You have been a gift, and so is Misty, a gift to all of us. You know, maybe a closing question for you, and I want to take a moment to offer my thanks as well. But one of the questions I've got for you is um, you go forward. How can we as a community continue to hold the two of you in prayer? What is that thing that you are hoping comes to life, either in your home or in your ministry, that we can together hold with you in the days, weeks, and even perhaps months to come?
Thank you for that. Well, my wife may have a different idea, but I'm just going to actually, if you all can hold us in prayer
Misty's got her opinion.
for the next, yeah, she wants, I ran out of treats and she's not happy. That moving, is one of those stressful times, and it's kind of amazing how often we have moved. I've certainly lost count of in our now 13
times.
In 30, it'll be this year, 39 years of marriage. But as stressful as it is, and it's been even more stressful for this woman here, to pray that this will be a relatively smooth move, because of all the moves, I guess was nervous to me. We've never moved in the dead of winter, and moving from the Midwest, which is cold, to New England, which is as cold, if not colder, and it's in the middle of a pandemic. So that this all goes as well as possible, that we can be settled by the end of this month, or at least getting into March. That kind of prayers, those prayers would be just, so for me, it's just very simple in that context. And, as we get settled, and I will send, continue to send love back to you all, to lift up, our mutual ministries in our different locations. So that's what I would say. I don't know if Tina has.
Well, it's interesting because I was thinking the very same thing as Walter. If you could keep us in your prayers over the next week or so as we do the actual physical transition of moving, and praying for good weather and not too much snow. But I also wanted to say, because I know I was thanking everybody for their kindnesses, but Drew and Jessica, I don't know if I emphasized enough how wonderful you have been and were in bringing us here, and opening your home to us when we came for our first visit, and then again the second time when we were actually moving. I was telling Walter, this is the first time I think we've moved in a long time where we had a preview of where we were moving to, and you and Jessica offered us that wonderful preview, not just of the physical location and the house, but of the warmth of your family and the love that you all have for each other and you extended to us. And I know I said my hope for the church as a whole, but I also want to share, because in terms of what I feel I gave to Christ Church, it wasn't directly to the church so much as to your associate priest, and that my role was to support him as much as I could in addition to my work. And I've never been a good cook, but during COVID, I tried to keep him well fed and all of that. So my hope moving forward too for you as a parish is specific to Jessica too, as a clergy spouse, that she will have the strength and the ability to move through her days, because I know how challenging it is, not just to be a clergy spouse, but also be raising young children at the same time. And I know we haven't had a chance to have tea and get together since before COVID, Jessica, but my hope is for you and Drew to be able to thrive as a family, your own nuclear family, as well as the family of the larger parish of Christ Church. So, and I know that everybody in the parish will support you in that, but to just give that shout out to the two of you.
Thanks, Tina.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've missed those opportunities to get together as well. COVID has definitely thrown a bit of a wrench in that for us, but know that I've thought about you frequently and enjoyed our conversations when we had those moments.
Yeah.
Thank you. The feeling's mutual. And again, the gift of Zoom, my hope is that we can all continue relating, even if it's not frequently, via email, via Zoom, and to share our futures, even if it's just once a year at Christmas, but that we can stay connected.
Friends, I'm really aware that this is an unordinary way to say farewell to one another, and in particular to two whom we have loved as much as we do. And so I just a word of thanks to all of you for giving yourselves to this night to be part of this conversation. I've enjoyed reading the thank yous that are coming through in the chat section, and as Walter said, it was just beautiful to see all of your gratitudes in the video that Joseph put together. But thank you also just for being present to this. It's not it doesn't have a night like this doesn't have the interaction that we kind of customarily want, but Zoom doesn't make for that. As we draw to close, Walter, I'm going to give you the last word, so you get to know that. As much as I often get it, but not tonight. But I do want to say, I haven't prepped you for this, Walter, but I'm among the last words I'm going to ask you to send us with your blessing. I do want to take a moment to say a couple of words for us. First, a reminder. We have one more opportunity to be with Walter, and that's this coming Sunday. Again, it's not the ordinary way that we gather and we say our gratitudes and offer our prayers, but it is in the midst of COVID the way we do. And so I encourage you to join us for our Sunday service, whether it's via YouTube or Facebook Live or the Christ Church website. It will be our farewell service with Walter. He's both the officiant and the preacher, and the service invites an opportunity for us to offer our prayers for him and for Tina. So please join us. And then following this, we've got our parish coffee hour and our sacred conversation this week with Shaniqua Broken Leg from the Episcopal church office, and that will be that. Customarily, we'd give the forum over to this conversation, but we've got Walter joining us for this sacred conversation together. So please join us on Sunday. Moving beyond the little advertisement portion of the day, I want to take a moment and share with everyone, and specifically with you, Walter, and you, Tina, my gratitude. Um, you know, there's the functional work that we do as colleagues, um, ensuring that in your case, Walter, in overseeing the ministries of parish life and adult formation, uh, compiling a program, making sure the announcements are ready, that the working with Catherine on the communications, all of that technical work that we do behind the scenes as associates and being responsible for ministry together. There's also, of course, the as a priest, all of the priestly ministry that you bring, from bedside visits to profound sermons, teaching in classes, to the celebration of the Eucharist and the simplicity of morning and evening prayer. All of those technical things that we do together. And I'm grateful for all of those things that you have done in ministry alongside of all of us here at Christ Church these past years. But there's another thing, particularly that you and associates in general, but you as a priest associate have brought in spades, and I want to just name and thank you for that. And that is the gift of friendship and collegium, the ability to share in counsel with you, the wisdom and insight that you bring to not just my ministry personally, but our ministry of Christ Church. The friendship, very specifically, that you bring to me. Um, how it, and I've heard others say this, but I restate it for myself, how much I have enjoyed being with you these years. To sit, yeah, the memories as I look back at our time together, um, amongst my fondest are the simple conversations that we had, um, either in your office with me in that blue chair, or in my office with you and on that little love seat, just talking about this or that in Christ Church, or in the broader church that we share, our understandings and perspectives on ministry, on priesthood, on the work of the church, or whatever it may be. Um, I've long said to the staff, I want us to be productive. I want us to do good and meaningful work. But I also want us to be friends in the workplace. And that for me is among the greatest gifts that you have brought, that I have just enjoyed and continue to enjoy being with you. And the amount and what that has done, I think, for us as a community, the trust and the respect that you have shown to me, and I pray I have shown to you, has been a great gift. And I'm envious of, but also grateful for Shannon, that she will have your friendship and your collegium in the years ahead. You are a fine priest. The church is better for your ministry, and the Diocese of Vermont will be very blessed, and Shannon in particular will be blessed for your friendship and your ministry, but perhaps most especially for your friendship. And so as we conclude tonight, I hope you hear with real clarity, not just a gratitude for the things that you have done, but for the person you have brought to our life. Your friendship, your compassion, your wisdom, your insight, all of that for you as a gift to Christ Church. So thank you, Walter, for I didn't see it beforehand, but for as Mark said, for being you and for your friendship to me these years. I look forward to those places where our lives and our paths will cross in the future. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Drew. That means a lot to me. Your words, but even more your kindness and your collegium as well as what I've learned over the past nearly 3 years. I really am grateful for that. And I want to wish everyone else the best. Did you want me to say just a final blessing?
In 30 seconds.
Okay.
Because yes, I want you to have the last word, and among those last words, I hope is your blessing. But I want to offer a prayer for you and for Tina that I think sums up both our gratitude and our profound hope for you as you and Tina begin this not just this new chapter, but the travels and the new opportunities that are before you. So yes, I want to have a little prayer, but I want you to wrap us up. Friends, if we can, let us pause for a moment to know that this time is and has indeed been sacred. It has been a gift to be together, and we'll continue after this with some of that wonderful coffee hour time. So stick around, but let us just pause for a moment to know that God is here as we seek God's blessing for Walter and for Tina and offer them to God's care in the days to come. Let us pray. Almighty and ever-living God, in whom we live and move and have our being, look with kindness, we pray, upon your servants Walter and Tina, who depart from this community, but not from our hearts. Assure them always of your abiding presence and of our abiding affection. Preserve them now as they travel, and bring them, we pray, in safety to their journey's end. And finally, O God, bless them. Bless them abundantly in their work and in their play together, that together and apart, they may continue to show forth your glory and your love to one another and to the world. Through Jesus Christ, our Lord, who lives and reigns with you, one God, now and forever. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Drew.
Thank you. And now, beloved of God at Christ Church in Grosse Pointe, go forth now into the world in peace and be of good courage. Hold fast to that which is good. Render to no one evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted, support the weak. Help the afflicted, honor all persons, love and serve God, rejoicing in the surpassing peace of God's grace. And may the blessing of God, the eternal majesty, incarnate word, and abiding spirit be among you and remain with you always. Amen. God bless you all. God love you. May God keep you in the palm of her hands.
Amen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
God bless you both.
Yeah.
And just one last word for Mark Lawrence. director, go Buckeyes, and Blair Osborne.
Oh, no.
No. Go
Oh,
blue.
Buckeyes.
Go blue.
Pretty dirty, Walter. That's pretty dirty.
We took
No
care of that.
Buckeyes here.
We took care of that.
That's funny. Just one last dig in there. All right. Yeah.
Walter, we took care of that.
You're not going up and
I know.
they know what football is.
Mark, was it intentional that you and Sue wore red again today?
This is pink. I got pink on, Sue got red.
It doesn't
Yeah.
come across as pink on our end.
Mark, you look good in pink.
Thank you, Butch. That means a lot.
By the way, there's a lot of catamounts up in Burlington.
That's right.
Oh,
What is this?
What is that?
That's the University of Vermont, catamounts.
Oh, the team, right.
oh, is that, oh,
Yeah, that's what they're called.
Get used to it up there.
I think technically it's like a bobcat and a mountain lion.
I think so.
It's a cougar.
Yeah.
I bet their hockey team is probably pretty good up there.
It's okay.
I was going to say, it's not as good as the University of Michigan. Oh.
I mean, Scott's saying I don't think.
I hope you know how to ski
Oh, yeah.
and have fun.
Learn fast.
Walter, I have a question
False.
for you.
I will, Scott. Yeah, I've been thinking about that. I just don't know about my bones if I don't want to get a broken thing or whatever. But
Yeah, and
I may hang around the ski lot.
Don't even think.
Cross country skiing is good too.
Walter, we'll miss you, especially at
Or snow.
8:30 in the morning. And just
Thank
want
you.
to thank you for all your references to the BBC and to England.
Oh, yeah.
Well, thank you, 8:30 every morning.
May I assure you that there will be no other priest that will have as many references to as Walter is, and connections that Walter is able to make. It's
Never.
one of his many gifts.
I think that's true.
Yes.
That's true.
I'm always amazed. He says, I know them. I know them. I know them.
When you
Yeah.
One-
Interesting.
person away from Kevin Bacon.
Yeah. 6 degrees of separation.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not 6 degrees. He's 2 degrees.
Yeah,
If that.
yes, I heard that. Yeah, very true.
Walter, I have a
Very fun.
completely inappropriate comment.
Just how that happened.
The
It
best of
is
all.
irrelevant, but we really would like to see what Misty looks like. Because having heard Misty bark over the last few days, what does she
Well,
look
I'll tell you what,
And
I will,
we-
let me, I'll tell you, I will turn the camera around and we will.
Well, she's in a
Well,
different room.
Joseph, will you spotlight Walter for us?
Go ahead. Yeah, Tina got up to feed her because she was most
Yeah,
definitely,
I'm sorry. She
Right.
was chiming in.
Aw.
Prayer,
she could care less, Misty could care less about farewells and so
That's
on.
right.
So
When's the next meal
here we
coming?
are. We're gonna put her, I'm gonna put the camera on her. I'm gonna put it down here on the floor. There we are.
Where is she? Where is she? We see her hand, Walter.
Misty, come here.
Not sure we want to see that part of Misty.
Oh,
Come on, Misty.
black.
Come on, Misty.
I see an ear.
Oh, there.
Ear, oh, that's gorgeous.
Beautiful.
She has a-
Oh, that's wonderful.
She's gorgeous.
Beautiful girl.
Great.
Lucy will love her.
Oh,
Hey,
Yeah.
Walter.
Yeah.
thank you.
Aw.
Oh, what a cute.
Go ahead, try.
I'm gonna, I'm trying to show.
There it is.
Can you see? So she has a,
Old lady's
Harness.
well, she's got a ridge on her back.
Oh,
This strip of mane. Her fur that goes up like a zebra mane, kind of. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Tina, you're
Because
she's
she's part of back. We
story.
got her when we were living. Oh, excuse the messy dining room that has all my school papers on it. We got her when we were living in South Africa.
Okay.
Gosh.
You had a dog in South Africa. Oh, no.
Tina, say that. I don't know that everybody caught that.
It's a rich
Tell us how Misty came into your lives.
Yeah. So
Go ahead.
when we were living in South Africa in Cape Town, we had promised our sons we'd get a dog, and she was actually a rescue, a street dog, probably from one of the townships, and so she's part Rhodesian Ridgeback, and part maybe Shepherd and Husky, and so even though she doesn't look like if you've ever seen a pure Rhodesian Ridgeback, they have this smooth brown fur, short brown fur like a dachshund. But then their fur grows backwards on their spine. So the way her fur, because it's longer, when it grows backwards, it's up like a zebra mane.
Well, part of her the bush, the bush in Africa, you have these wild dogs, and the Rhodesian Ridgeback is a hybrid that was crossbred between English, your standard
British
English
hunting
dog, and these dogs, and that was done because when they roads and the others came to southern Africa, those dogs were dying. They just couldn't thrive. They saw that these dogs obviously had the constitution, particularly mosquito bites, malaria, whatever. And so by crossbreeding them, that's how they developed.
So they were interbred with the Hottentot tribal hunting dog in Southern Africa.
But she is about, probably, we don't know exact age, but I would think she's about at least 16 and a half.
Wow.
So, and she's a 50, and she's,
Oh my gosh.
she's now a little bit lighter. She's probably about 47 pounds now, but she was big in Hawaii, she's up to 53. And that's not a huge dog, but it's a big dog. And several veterinarians, she's on, so yeah, this is going to be her sixth move.
Oh my
And
goodness.
as long as she, and I just remember when the staff in South Africa, the clerical staff, I took them out to lunch before we left South Africa, and they asked me what I was going to do with the dog. Who was I giving the dog to? And I said, I'm not giving this dog to anyone. The dog is coming back with us. And they just thought this was the wildest thing, that this street dog from South Africa was going to go live in America. It was sort of like the lap of luxury. But
the plaza.
Well, but as you all know, we have 2 sons and no daughters. So she's the daughter that Walter never had.
So will you be giving her?
Oh my.
Will you be giving her a car for her 16th birthday?
There's a really touching story, if I can interject on that. Tina had said that to us early on, that Misty was the daughter Walter never had, and when Walter and Tina were first moving here, as Tina mentioned, they were staying with us. And I don't know if it was in that window of time or maybe a visit after that. But Catherine, bless her heart, was having to was struggling to organize in her drawers and room, and we were kind of asking her. And so Walter, bless his heart, helped Catherine organize her drawers and fold her clothes. And it was just the most touching. Such a fond memory.
I kind of think it was. I wondered if she was playing a Tom Sawyer on getting me to make sense. But yeah, because her mother mother said, "You're not doing anything until you get this room together." And I think she was like saying, "Man, this is really
Too much.
but this priest helped." And I just, Richard and Jill, I think, are still here. I have to say this, the thing, one of my dearest friends is a 80-something-year-old priest, Father Christopher Bryan, who we were colleagues at Sewanee together. And Chris is British. He went to Oxford. He wouldn't know it. He technically is a Cockney. He grew up, that's the East End, right? Cockney. But anyway, Chris and I became friends. We were colleagues on the faculty, and Chris eventually retired and moved back to England. His wife, Wendy, who tended to stay there. So they live in Exeter. So anyway, I just remember and Chris always had at least one or two dogs, typically kind of English hunting dogs. And we used to love to go to his house for dinner. He'd come to ours and he'd play with Misty, or I'd play with that. And I remember it was after I'd been working there for 3 or 4 years. And, we were just remarking on our friendship. And in retirement, Chris writes novels. He writes these crime novels as a priest. But he said, "I always knew you were a good fellow. You were a good man." Because when we were moving from South Africa to Sewanee, I said, "Now we have to make accommodations for my dog." And that was very clear. And he's somebody that has a dog and is that attached to his dog must be that story about Englishmen and their dogs. Anyway, I've always struck about how having this is been a blessing to me, particularly. I actually learned theology because she doesn't worry about too much other than that she is fed and paid attention to time to time, and always wants to have a job anyway. So
Daughters demand a little bit more than that, Walter.
I would imagine that I would have daughters. There'd be certain things about discipline and time that who to go out with.
It's like Jessica's got a job too.
Come to some problems, I would imagine. So it turned out okay that I just had the dog, There's so many great messages in the chat. I appreciate so much. These are some great messages. Yeah. So if there's, and as as Scott Hanoyan put in the chat, so the Fred and Sharon DeHaven, and they've already sent me an email. They live down Middlebury. I guess their daughter has a farm area.
Nice farm.
That's great.
So anyway, there'll be a little Christ Church in exile.
Yeah.
He played at Shannon's.
Walter was there.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
So you would have seen.
Yeah. And I met them. I think it was actually at Ann Bergbauer's funeral. I don't know if I got a chance at the consecration. I'm not sure if I got a chance to see Fred, but I know he was playing. But anyway, so there we are.
Holly, are you still walking, Holly, around the block in cold weather?
I've taken to walking the halls of the condo. It's more.
I don't blame. Plus, it's gotten quite icy, so it's probably safer.
Warmer for sure.
Walk around the condo.
Yeah. No.
Betsy Creedon?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
No, Betsy, question.
Yeah.
Thank you. I got the card today. Thank you so much. But so when is I want to particularly remember to pray. When is the baby in Italy? When is that going to the birth?
He is due March 4th.
Yay, good day. Very good day.
But let me be sure to have how I can contact you so that I can tell you exactly. But thank you for praying for him.
All right, yeah.
Ronan, little Ronan.
Oh, they've already got the name picked out.
Yeah.
He's the first name. They haven't got the middle name, but the first name is Ronan. I don't know where that came from, but it's a good Irish name.
It's not an old name.
Well,
That's good.
it's also the Rowan Williams. It's also in Wales.
No, you're
Is
with
it
the
Ronan?
W. This is with the N. It's
Yeah.
Ronan.
Oh,
I
oh.
thought it was Rowan too, and I was very excited. The Archbishop. No, Ronan. But anyway, he's
Ronan.
doing well, and we'll hope that he continues to do well.
Will they let her go into regular labor, or are they going to? Okay, good.
No, he'll have open heart surgery the
I
day
need-
after he's born.
Oh, my
They'll
goodness.
take him at some point.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he's doing really well. He's over 6 pounds. So he's,
So at any point now, it's
yeah, he's good.
birth
But
rate.
thank you for asking. Walter, I'm gonna say about the 10th time, I'm gonna miss you. I have loved my classes with you. I would only ask from a layperson's point of view that when you assign reading in the future, some of those books were pretty damn dense, Betty. I think you could be a little lighter on us, a little easier on us.
I
Yeah.
learned a bit about that.
Yeah.
I was
When there's more footnotes than there is text, it's a good sign.
I love it. Yeah,
That was a tough one.
that's quite a book. I
That was
loved
a
it,
tough
but
one.
yes.
Which one was that?
That was Breaking White Supremacy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There are certain they actually have a contest.
The community of the blessed.
Who can drop the longest?
Who can drop the longest what?
Yes. Footnote.
Footnotes. Oh my God.
They were like judges when I was a lawyer.
You're frozen.
Walter will come back. You'll all appreciate this, and I don't think I'm out of touch. One of the things Walter said to me early on, he said, "You know, Walter, I was just about to say, I hope I'm not speaking out of turn." One of the things Walter said to me when we first, way back before even Walter came to Christ Church, he said, "Drew, I speak in footnotes."
He does. So
remind me to get back to the subject.
That's funny.
Just when you're following him, he goes, "Oh."
And you have to know when I'm
on another path.
And then I go back to the
yeah.
But yes, that's
But
true.
your hugs are the best. I miss those the most.
I know.
Well, thank you. And this is what I really hate about this pandemic. So I just know that up in Burlington, I might encourage you to come between May and October, but it's the door open, and I'd love to give you a hug there. So thank you.
You have Shelburne Farms up there. That's beautiful in Burlington.
Yeah, I've kind of heard it. You know, the Trosts, I don't know if the Trosts are still here. The Trosts gave us this book about some of the sights to see in Vermont and going through there. So,
I have some relatives I'm hooking you up with. I'm not sure they're going to church. Maybe you can get them to go to church. I'm going to sick you on them.
Sure, mother, and Betsy, this is your mother's side of the family. Correct?
No, this actually is my brother-in-law's side of the family now. My mother's side was from Vermont, but this is my brother-in-law's brother and his wife.
Betsy, more than likely, Walter probably already knows them since.
I know. I mean, they're probably, yeah.
From the
They've
city
had
that
tea
Walter
together.
doesn't know anybody in.
Absolutely.
It'll be interesting. I'm told that there is something about Vermont because it's small that actually a lot of people do know each other.
Yeah.
In these places, I don't know how that is, but apparently, I guess they do.
You're gonna love it.
You'll love it.
You'll love it. And you got Shannon. I mean, perfect.
Didn't Sharon Blaine retire up here?
Huh.
Remember that?
I don't know. I don't know. Did she Vermont or New Hampshire?
I don't remember. I can't remember if it was Vermont or New Hampshire.
Who did you say?
Sharon Blaine.
Sharon Blaine and her husband.
They're
Sharon
in
and-
London. They're
In
in
London,
London, New
right?
Hampshire.
Yes.
Are
That's
they?
where,
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. They live in New London, New Hampshire. Yeah.
that's where I went to college.
I've been blessed to read some memoirs of my dad's, talking a lot about, he did his residency in Hanover, New Hampshire.
Oh.
He talks a lot about going to Vermont to go skiing and all those, it's like, I've been sending it to my daughter. She's in New York City and she's heading up the river, Hudson River. I guess she's going to Woodstock. And it's like, why don't you just you mosey over into Vermont, So.
It's not quite that close.
Vermont's actually from Burlington is only 2 hours, I think she said, from where they are on the west side of Manhattan. So they've talked about going there. So,
Yeah.
it's all
Let's
relative.
just say, the one thing, as you know, in Vermont, the COVID rates are pretty low, maybe the first or second lowest in the country. But the two areas that have the biggest problems are Bennington and also Rutland.
Oh.
And
Yeah.
I'm told that it's a proximity to some ski areas.
That makes sense.
I know
Yeah.
Killington is another big ski area. That wasn't, I don't know where that was in relation to those two, but that they have about a week ago, because I've been listening to the public radio out of Vermont, and they give these reports all the time. The thing is, there are a lot of people who come up from New York. Some of you already know this. Because of the pandemic and people can work anywhere, a lot of property has been bought by people from New York City.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Who have now gone up.
And all
There
over,
has.
actually, there's one house we saw that we really wanted to rent, and actually it was for sale, and an investor from Texas got to it before we did. But the realtors were telling us whether you were renting or buying, it was unusual for anything to stay on the market more than a week. So many people were flocking to Vermont. And there's such a housing shortage. It's also, Burlington's a college town, so finding a place to rent in the middle of the winter was kind of hard too. But, that basically I got up in the middle of the night one night and just was lucky to find a house that had been posted. But there's a lot of interest. Oh, and I was going to say, because a lot of people aren't finding houses to buy, they're coming and renting apartments and then building their own houses. So it was even hard to find apartments. But Ron and Jackie, are you guys in your new place? Is that where?
We've been there for
4 months?
maybe 3.
But we had to unmute. Yeah, end of October. Whatever that
So you
is.
moved in a pandemic too.
This is our basement.
Say that again?
Oh, you had to move during a pandemic too.
Yeah, don't ever do it again. No
Tina,
more
you
pandemics.
You should hear the story
And
of
we only had to move
from
3
Chicago to New York in the pandemic last summer. It was, I've shared it with Walter a lot, so.
But I'm sorry, Ron, I couldn't hear what you were saying.
No, that it's very true what you were saying. Moving during a pandemic was demanding, to put it mildly, and we only had to go 3.5 miles. So we cannot imagine what you're about to do in the middle of winter.
Well, yeah,
Like 45 minutes away from the Ben and Jerry's.
there was one moving company we talked to that was not going to wear masks. And they said that according to Vermont, whatever the governor's mandate was, that if you were doing strenuous labor, you didn't have to wear a mask, and they considered packing and loading strenuous labor. So needless to say, we didn't go with that company.
Well, I asked the bishop about it, and she had a colorful choice of words for it.
So you guys have Bernie Sanders, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
With his mittens.
You're already sold out.
Senator.
But maybe more importantly, we have Ben and Jerry's, right?
Yeah, that's the
Yes.
that's the problem.
That's true.
That's
An
the
hour
danger.
away.
Ben and Jerry's is his
That's the
family.
danger. They got their own stores. You know, you can just walk in and get a cone.
You go right to the factory in Waterbury.
Yeah, though the factories there. I don't know if they give tours or not. I probably should avoid it. But I love that I, but yeah, that's the thing.
I'm gonna tweet him.
You guys come visit, we'll take a trip to Waterbury for that. And Susan, I'm sorry, did you say your father did his residency at Dartmouth?
Yes, he
Did
did.
you say that? Was it? So
Thank
yes, actually,
I was
talking
born
to someone.
there. I was born there.
The health insurance. So I was talking about a health insurance, and University of Vermont is a medical school. So Burlington is pretty good. A lot of people, particularly east of the mountain, they go to Dartmouth for their medical treatment, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty close. And yeah,
Sometime in my
Dartmouth is
80s, they went back and got a tour of the hospital, and he became, very impressed with the donation stuff there. But and it's interesting because when he did his residency there were lots of things there that weren't being done in Michigan, specifically at Cottage Hospital, like recovery rooms from surgery. And so he brought those things back, and with his father at Cottage, got many of those things installed at Cottage Hospital. So,
Wow.
yeah. So it's,
and you were born there.
I was born there, and my sister was born there, and then we moved shortly after he came back to join his father in practice here. So, and he took us, I think we traveled there twice when I was kind of in my middle school teens area to go. We went there skiing, and skied in New Hampshire and Vermont. So, and skiing there can be, very beautiful. It can also be a sheet of ice.
Gotta go. Love you.
Yep.
Ooh, that sounds like northern Michigan.
You're exactly right. Exactly right. Or Drew, mashed potato snow.
I think the temperature today in Burlington was the same as it was here in Grosse Pointe.
Yeah,
I was checking it.
Yeah, but how many
I'm sorry,
days
go ahead.
warmer
we tracked it.
in Grosse Pointe?
It's very similar much of the time.
Yeah, I was checking the weather because we had somebody pick up the car.
So yeah, the car. The
Oh, is
first
the car
thing
gone?
Tina's car arrives
Tomorrow morning.
at the bishop's house tomorrow.
So Ron and Jackie Phil has graciously agreed to, be there to receive the car. And I'll have to warn them because the driver doesn't speak English. So I had to call the dispatcher to translate when he arrived at our house.
He's a Israeli guy. He came this morning and picked up Tina's car. And
Israeli, born in Israel, but then grew up in Georgia, Ukraine. When I asked him what languages he spoke, it was, Bosnian and Hebrew and Russian, but nothing that I knew.
So is he physically driving it, or did they put it on a truck?
yeah, he's put it on a truck.
Well, luckily it was a one car trailer, as opposed to when we shipped that car from Hawaii, it went on one of those big semis with, 16 cars.
So yeah. So then my car, Tina in the passenger seat,
and Misty in one of the back seats, and the rest of the car filled up with which is going to be fun.
Originally, we were going to take both cars, and my brother and his wife were going to drive up from DC to help us because they both recently retired. But, you know, when it came closer to the time and the community spread of COVID, even though it's declining in some places, it's still a little dicey. And we found out, like, even driving through the state of New York, we're going to need to have a certificate that we print off.
Yep.
Out of the state. Have you done that, Betsy?
No, with my daughter. Yeah. Yeah. We used to go through Canada. We couldn't do that now. Yeah. It's
shorter. Canada.
Oh yeah.
We adding 2 hours to the trip to go through Ohio, Pennsylvania,
Oh yeah.
New York.
Oh yeah. Canada route was great. No more.
Well, and the thing I told Walter, we typically get pulled over, especially when we're driving through rural areas and if it's dark. And so, well, no, I mean, as an interracial couple, I can't tell you how many times we've been pulled over. But then you add to it the COVID thing and our out-of-state license plates. So we got to make sure and that's
yeah, definitely.
You know, that's one of the things I'm actually looking forward to post-pandemic is the real big city is an hour and a half is Montreal. So I'm actually
Great place.
bone up on my French. Drew, you appreciate this. So our mutual friend at the other Christ Church, he told me that he'll come to Montreal to have dinner with me. Because he knows some great restaurants. He said there's some great restaurants in Montreal. So anyways,
I bet.
See what
It's a beautiful city. Beautiful.
hour and a half. Goodness, it's like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Close. We went home through Canon last year.
And you were coming from where, Miranda?
From Shannon's ordination.
Oh, right.
2 years ago.
Miranda has cousins, Canadian cousins that we visited with.
Tina.
Yes.
Love to you guys. I have to run. Our dogs are getting restless. I have no idea what our kids are doing. They've not been fed or anything. This might be a good time, if any, but blessings to you guys.
Well, send
love
our
you.
love to
Miss you.
Sam and Catherine.
Yes.
God bless you.
Okay.
And to be good.
And remind Catherine about the guy that helped her with her drawers in her bureau, which is probably best visual I have of Walter ever.
Love it. She needed that help tonight.
I love that visual. I love it.
I was like, where do you put these? And you know, and she just, and I could see in some parts she was kind of like winging it. And then she was also trying to figure out what could she just stuff in the back of the closet. That wouldn't be. She was
I'd be happy just to put in the laundry bag. It's fine.
I mean, it was like, I could see Jessica's, because it was just like out in the middle of the floor, right? It was just in the middle of the room. And she was just, and she said, you have to put these things away, and you know how to put them away.
Oh, it's a sweet image.
It is.
They loved having you here, staying here that time. It was really a gift to them. So we'll all miss you guys dearly.
Thank you. Well, you know, don't you go to Maine in the summers when there's no COVID, right? So don't you have to go through Vermont to get to Maine?
Not necessarily.
Oh, no, you go through Canada.
We can make it.
Yeah, the United States is not designed Vermont, New Hampshire to be connected.
They're not. They're
designed them all to be connected to Massachusetts.
But
just understand that Vermonters and New Hampshire people are glad it's that way.
Oh yeah, I think
oh
so.
yeah, oh yeah.
But you'll be closer to us there.
I want to try. Well, we'd be glad to get some Ben and Jerry, come have some Ben and Jerry's, but
Bye, Jessica.
I want to get some lobsters somewhere.
Well, there is good lobster in Winter Harbor, Maine, and there are spare bedrooms there. So we'd love to have you.
Oh, thank you.
And likewise, we have spare bedrooms too. Jackie, I'm curious, did you help Shannon drive from Indianapolis to?
Oh, no. No, we didn't.
I don't know why.
Yeah, Canon got in the plane and flew to Vermont. Bill and control cars.
Well, and Phil insisted on doing some moving or driving this truck.
So I don't know why you were driving to. I mean, not maybe driving.
To,
So you wanted to help. You helped her.
excuse me.
Too old to do all that riding.
She's upset because I want to have at least 2 drives, one through Canada and one, along Lake Erie. So we will definitely have a driving trip at some point.
But I may have a heart attack trying to monitor Ron's driving.
Oh, well.
I understand, Jackie.
So Walter and Tina, I have to go because Mr. Creedon needs dinner and we haven't had it yet. But you have been a joy. I remember the first night that I met you at dinner at Jessica and Drew's, and I brought a pie from Sister Pie. It was a maple pie. And remember, Tina, you loved it so much, and you said, "We will move here for this pie." I never forget it. And it was,
actually, I got to figure out how to get this. One of our, Matt Lee, the law professor from Akron, he did one of his little honorarium was for a charitable organization, but he actually said the only thing he would love personally if someone could send him a Michigan cherry pie.
oh, Sister Pie, Sister Pie. Anyway, I love you too. I will miss you. I want your email addresses. We got to stay connected. Tina, we didn't get enough time together. And Walter, we didn't get enough time together. But you have been a fabulous gift to our parish. We have grown. We are better because of you. And we will live into that. I promise. So God bless. And now Mr. Creedon gets dinner. Good night.
Love you. Give our love to Gaylord.
Oh, I will. Thank you.
Thank you. Love you lots.
I'm good.
Hi, Catherine and Sam.
Yeah.
Oh, there they are.
How are you
Look at you
guys?
guys. Hello.
Are you guys happy?
We're gonna
Pardon?
Where are they?
Look at how she's grown up.
Is that your school uniform?
I don't know if that's a school uniform.
Oh, no, I thought I saw a blazer. But
It
you're
is.
back
She's
in.
got a blazer.
Oh, yeah, she's got her blazer.
Among her school attire.
Are you glad to be back in school in person? Or did you like virtual?
I like in-person school better.
I have a question for Sam. Sam, is your father still cutting your hair, or do you get to a real barber now?
Now he got a real cut from a real barber.
All right.
But
You
no,
like your dad?
You need
he's not paying for a haircut.
I got one.
This one wasn't doing the best the second time. The first time he did pretty well. The second time he messed it up big time.
Well, on that note,
Now,
the Ferraras.
Sam, Walter can't talk. Cut sense here.
Yeah, well, I don't
Because
think they wouldn't let me.
But I tried, and I didn't do such a good job either. We were glad they could find a barber eventually.
They wouldn't want us touching their hair. My goodness.
You can write them a note.
Could imagine.
Well,
And you see,
friends on that note, the Ferraras.
he can't trust anybody.
Unless you want to.
Yeah, Miranda and Peter.
This is a conversation.
Absolute blessing in our lives, and we'll miss you and want to get together again soon, Walter. And
Yeah, we know how to get there.
Before you go, Are you already moved into your house, did you say?
Yes.
Finish the move?
Yep,
Congrats.
we moved, we had some kids from the neighborhood and some kids from Messiah. And Peter loaded things into laundry baskets and we moved them across the driveway. And I cannot find anything.
Oh,
My classic
we're so
answer is,
disorganized.
oh, it's in the basement someplace. So yes,
So-
we're moved.
So we look forward to having everybody here sooner than later, but life is what it is right now. So we'll have to wait before everybody.
We're practically right next door. They built that house.
We will we'll see you.
Take care.
Lots.
Hey, Blair and Nancy, I have a question for you. This is actually a question for Blair, but I want to see Nancy say. So Blair, so how do you? So this is a good. So do you like the lines, their moves? You like what they, the new hires?
Yeah, everything is, I'm surprised you purposely staying away from the incredible coaching staff change up at Michigan?
I saw that there were some changes, but I wasn't gonna, I really didn't want to mess it up.
Recruiting is taking a upward spiral. It's pretty amazing, but it's time for Stafford to go, and God, hopefully he gets a shot at playing on a good team and seeing what he can really do, because I don't think he got his due in Detroit, to tell you the truth. But Tina, we're going to miss you, Nancy and I, but Walter, not really that much. The peace and tranquility that we'll have next football season is going to really be appreciated. So I just wanted you to know that, and keep listening in your mind and make that the last thing that you see every night.
I see that. And if Michigan wins, it'll be all that because I was not here, to put a, mojo on Harbaugh. So, that'll be the whole deal. That
More than likely, I knew you'd figure out how to take credit for it.
I will never forget this though. I just tell you that. So the first year, what was that? November 2018. So after that game, that it was a Blair came up to the communion rail. I didn't even know he wanted to take communion for me, but at the end he was gracious to put out his hands and just said the body of Christ. But next year, I think I said the body of Christ and I repeated the score or something like that.
53-20 or something got awful like that, yeah.
Well, I'm so glad won't miss you, Walter, but we certainly will in this household. So, thank you for everything
Well,
you've done.
thank you so much. Thank you so much.
And
We'll see you at morning.
might look you up because we have a daughter-in-law who's from Wolfboro, New Hampshire.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, so it's not unfamiliar to us in that direction.
Yeah.
Good.
We'll be able to go.
I love your matching outfits, the purple. Did you plan that?
Well, no, it's very weird. Since we've been on this evening, we've been in an increasing blue haze. It didn't start like this, but once it went dark, it became blue.
And we've not been smoking anything.
No, we don't smoke. I have no idea. All I can see is that the color is really dirty and it didn't show up when the sun was shining. Anyway, peace and blessings.
And
blessings to you guys.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you so, Drew. It was a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Really lovely, Walter. Thank you. And Tina, thank you for all that you've brought to our life. I look forward to that time when our paths can cross properly and we share a real embrace.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for everything. Jessica and Sam. And
all right,
good night,
you guys.
Catherine.
And hey, Blair, I will remember the jazz. That was the highlight, was going. to
Yes,
the
that was
jazz.
so lovely.
That was great. That was
Great
great.
night. We enjoyed it as well, and it was fun. Have you been back to Southern Standard?
I don't know. Maybe they have, but
Probably not. Yeah. But we enjoyed it as well. It was a great night. Hi, Catherine.
good night.
Take care.
Good night, guys.
God bless. Bye, Catherine.
Have a good rest of the
To leave.